Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lab 210 at Paul Smith College. So today we're going to prepare a couple different items. What we're going to start with is a little bit of glazed celery root. I'll bring this up and I'm going to narrate a little bit more than I cooked today. But this is the base root of the celery plant, not so much the stalk celery. All of the vegetable's energy goes into the root as compared to the traditional stalk celery that you'll find in your grocery store. This has a lot more intensive flavor. It has a nice bright white flesh, and this comes from Juniper Hill Farms. We're also going to work on a little bit of carrot puree. These are holdover carrots from last season from Juniper Hill, but they're still nice and firm and fresh. And again, it's a local product that we're using in our program. Rich is going to start to peel the celery root. The outside of the celery root is not very edible. He's going to peel it as close as he can, and then we're going to shave off the outsides so that we get a nice square product. Any of the trim we're going to use for our carrot puree and the celery puree. Then Rich is going to square it up. Juniper Hill Farm is located in Wadhams, New York. They have product available for our school and through the farmer's market and the farmer's market year round. That trim, Rich, go ahead and put that right in that pot with the carrots. You can go ahead and work on getting that in here. So the most important thing about the glazed celery root is not so much that it's a perfect size, but that all the sizes are uniform so that they cook at the same time. No pressure, Rich, we're going to measure them with a ruler. Okay, so we have a little bit in advance that we did up so that we can move the program along. But when we cook this celery root, you can see they're all uniform size. And when we glaze them, we're going to start with a raw product. We have fresh thyme. Salt. A little bit of butter. And today we're just going to use water. You can use chicken stock if you so choose, vegetable stock, but we're just going to have enough liquid to cover the vegetables. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put that on medium heat. Now that's going to cook for roughly 20 minutes until the vegetables become fork tender, and that's going to be one of the components for our dish today. Our next component that we're going to work on is the carrots from Juniper Hill. These we're going to peel and we're going to dice them up roughly in the same shape. These we're going to cook with water and salt, and we're going to overcook them so that they're going to be for a carrot puree. So what we're looking for in our final dish is to achieve a couple different textures. We're going to have the texture of the celery root, which will be square, and then we're going to have the smooth texture of the carrot puree, and then also with the trim of the celery root in there. Same idea, we have a little bit of salt. We're going to cover this with water. Very similar like when you're making mashed potatoes or something along those lines. We want to make sure the carrots are very well overcooked, and then we're going to process them in the food blender. So the next farm that we're using is Tucker's Potatoes, which is located in Gabriels, New York. They're only 10 minutes down the road from our school, and the original Steve Tucker runs the farm now, but his great-great-grandfather used to sell vegetables to Paul Smith when it was a hotel. Today we're using 3 different types of potatoes. We're using the Daisy Golds, which are the deep yellow flesh potatoes. We're using the Magic Mollies, which they're a darker purple potato, but on the inside, they're an incredible deep purple. Okay, and then we also have the Adirondack Reds, which are more pink to me, but they still have that nice color. Tucker's Farms, they grow vegetables for 5 different restaurants in the area, as well as for Paul Smith's College, but they also have 15 different types of seed potatoes. So they grow the potatoes and they ship them out all across the country, and we're fortunate enough that we get their table stock here at Paul Smith's, and they also sell them in the local area, but you can go to their website, tuckerstaters.com, if you're looking for them, or they're also sold at Norrie's Market in Saranac Lake. So these potatoes, they have to be boiled 24 hours in advance so that when they set, they don't lose their color. We boiled these yesterday. It's the same as any regular potato. We wash them. We start them with cold water, a little bit of salt. We're going to put them on a high heat until they boil, and we're going to boil them till you can pierce them with a fork. Once they're boiled, we let them cool at room temperature, and the following day we go ahead and we peel them. This is a regular dish that we do at school, but we have all 3 potatoes that are pureed. So the next component to this dish, we're going to take a little bit of cream, and this is sort of our interpretation of a dauphinoise potato or somewhat of a scallop potato. So we're going to start with heavy cream. For this amount, we only need roughly 4 ounces. Again, we're going to use fresh thyme.
Chef Kevin?
Yes.
Can you confirm the names of the potatoes that you're using, please?
Yes, I can. So we have the first one, which is the purple, which is the Magic Molly. The red ones are called ADK Reds. And then the last one is a Daisy Gold. So in our cream, we have a tablespoon of garlic. This we're going to put on the heat, and we're going to reduce it by half. That's going to be one of the components of this part of our dish. Next component, which Colby is working on, is we have some Vidalia onion. He's julienning the onion. He's going to go ahead and start with a pan over medium to high heat, and we're going to caramelize these onions. You can turn the celery down a little bit. Okay, so these onions are going to take roughly 20 to 25 minutes. We're going to start them on high heat, and then we're going to turn them down so that the natural sugars start to come out. Once they're released, it's going to start to caramelize. That'll be our second component for our potatoes. Last component is probably one of my favorite cheeses in the world, but it's called Dutch Knuckle. I tell my kids it's my favorite wrestling move as well, but it's from Sugar House Creamery, and that's located in Upper J, New York. It's an aged raw milk cow's cheese. And this we're going to shave on top of the potatoes before they go into the oven for our last part of this dish. Go ahead and cut those. So now what Colby's going to do is he's going to start to assemble this the same way we would have it in the restaurant. So we're going to use each potato. We're going to stagger them for presentation purposes, but we also like to highlight what we have available in our area. So we'll start with a Magic Molly. And we're going to go with an 80K red. Then we're going to go with a Daisy Gold. We're going to follow that straight down. Okay, so you can see, once we start to get this set up, we see the different colors of the potatoes. We're going to sprinkle just a touch of salt on top. So once your onions have caramelized for about 25-30 minutes, they're going to get a deep, dark brown, rich color. These are what we're going to use for the top of the potatoes. So that we can play it. Okay. We're going to continue that. So once these potatoes are assembled, we're going to be able to just set them aside until we're ready to add the finishing touches at the end, and we'll catch you up with that in a little bit. What's that Puree there, Rich? Okay, now we're going to talk about our protein that we're using today, and we're going to be using leg of venison. This is a product of New Zealand. I'm not a hunter. I didn't shoot a deer this year, and all my friends who gave me their venison, I already ate it. But venison is something that everybody relates to in the Adirondacks. If you do want to purchase venison, there is a company called Adventures in Food. They are located in Albany, New York, and they will directly ship to your house. So you are able to order it. And again, that's Adventures in Food. They also have a website, which is adventuresinfood.com. So we're using a Denver leg, which means that all of the muscles have been removed so that they're in their whole pieces. All of the silver skin has been removed from the muscles, and we have a nice piece of meat that is roughly uniform in shape and size. Now, what we do in the restaurant, because we always want to make sure that everybody's dish looks the same, but it's also important because when we cook it, it'll all cook at the same time and it'll be evenly cooked. What we'll do is we'll take a little bit of plastic wrap. We're going to take the venison. We're going to slide that on there. And I'm going to begin to roll it up. Add one more piece. And I'm pulling it as I spin it so that it makes a tight squeeze. Now I'm going to be able to spin this side, which is equivalent to the back stop. And I'm going to tie a knot with my plastic wrap. Okay, then I'm going to take the opposite side. And I'm going to make that super tight so that it achieves something that looks almost like a sausage, all right? I'm going to take a little bit of string. I'll wrap that around the end. I'm going to tie that up. So these we prepare in advance. But as you can see, we're able to remove all those muscles and they're all the same size. These should really sit in your refrigerator for 10 to 12 hours and they'll hold that shape. So when we're ready to cook the venison, first thing we're going to do is portion it out. So I'm going to be able to trim my end piece. Again, I don't want to waste any of it. What we're able to do, we're going to take these medallions out. They almost resemble the equivalent of a tenderloin. This venison is extremely tender. When we cook it, we're going to keep it rare to medium rare. So you can see all of the pieces are uniform in size. That's just going to help so that they cook evenly. Okay, so now we're going to start to cook the venison and assemble our sauce. Our sauce today is going to be a pan sauce. We're going to use hard apple cider, which was made by our brewing class. They don't know that I stole it yet, but if they're looking for it this week, it'll be in this sauce. We're also going to use maple syrup that's produced by our sugar house here at Paul Smith's. We're going to start with a little bit of salt. Cracked black pepper. This is going to be on both sides. So we have a hot pan here. I'm going to add just enough canola oil, coat the bottom. And I'm going to add the venison. is, I'm looking to get a nice golden brown on both sides. There's really no fat content to this meat at all. So that's why we don't really want to cook it over rare to medium rare. You can see we're starting to get nice caramelization on the meat. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see, but on the bottom of the pan, we're starting to get something that's called a fond, or that's the caramelization of the meat that's sticking to the bottom. There's a lot of flavor there, so we're going to be able to use that shortly. But once both sides are seared, they're all uniform shape, nice golden brown color. I'm going to remove them from this pan. I'm going to immediately add a little bit of onion. You can use shallot if you want. Onions are what we had available from the caramelized onions that we made. I have to add just a little bit more oil so that those can sizzle. Again, I'm going to add a sprig of fresh thyme. You can see thyme is a theme that runs through this dish. I'm going to start to caramelize the onions. This is going to start to remove the foam from the bottom of the pan. And here I have my hard apple cider. I have a little bit of Gansey stock that we made here. You can easily use chicken stock, chicken bouillon, chicken base, something that will just give you a little bit of flavor. And I'm going to deglaze with the hard cider. That's going to remove all of the fond from the bottom of the pan. Once that reduces by half, you can start to see the size of the bubbles. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see or not. We're going to be able to add our stock. And this we're going to simmer and we're going to reduce it roughly by 1/3. I'm going to move this back on the other stove and we're going to start to be able to finish up the other things that we started earlier. Venison, I'm just going to hold it on the side until the end. I'll just pop it in the oven for 3 minutes, finish cooking it to rare to medium rare, and then we'll use it later. Okay, so our carrots and our celery root, I got to make sure that they're, we call it fork tender, but you got to be able to pierce them. So I'm able to break them apart with these tongs so I know that they're ready. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drain these. So this is our margarita blender. But you can use any blender that you have in your house, or if you have a Roku or a Vitamix or something along that, a food processor, that'll work as well. The important thing is just to make sure that your vegetables, you can make puree out of anything, but today make sure that your carrots and your celery are able to break apart, all right? I don't want to have any liquid in there at all. Okay, I'm going to take these and I'm going to put them into our blender.
Chef Kevin, we have another question.
All right, what can I answer?
What is the spelling for the residue of the meat that was at the bottom of the pan?
Fond, F-O-N-D.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we have our carrots. Roughly, that's a pound of carrots. To that, we're going to add an ounce of butter. Butter is going to help to make it rich, but when we spin it in the VitaPrep, it's going to add a lot of air, and it's going to brighten the color up. Rich, would you blend that for me? Now we're back to our potatoes. These are the ones that we had. Sir. Kobe's got that double cream. This is just going to add a couple drops to the top. Last thing we're going to do for this, we have our Dutch knuckle. We're going to grate it on top.
Chef Kevin?
Yes.
Can you please give a brief description of the flavor of celery root?
Celery root is the equivalent. If you take some fresh stalked celery and you're able to take it in your hands and you break it open and squeeze it and you sniff and you get that intense smell of celery, imagine having that in a silky form. So it's that intense celery flavor, but it's very rich and it coats your tongue when you eat it. Almost like when you have a Bloody Mary or something like that and you smell that celery stalk. That's how intense the celery root is. That answer your question? Puree looks good, Rich. Would you put it in the pot? So potatoes, yeah, it was great. So these are set. This is something we'll do in the restaurant so we can have individual portions. But these we're going to pop in the oven. They're going to take 5 minutes to heat up. We're also going to put the venison in the oven now as well. Oh yeah, great job. Okay, so we pureed those carrots. We put them into a different pot. You can see the color. You can see the silkiness. This we're going to season with a small amount of salt. And about a teaspoon of maple syrup. I love carrots and maple syrup. Lots of times in the restaurant, especially in October after the first frost, we'll make carrot ice cream. They have an intense sweetness after the first frost, but maple and carrots are great. So this is here for our thing. So we have our carrot puree. So our last local ingredient that we have are pea tendrils. You want to take the venison out? So these come from Moonstone Farm, which is located in just outside of Bloomingdale. Jake Benny Volrath and his wife Erin own the farm. They supply us with eggs, but he grew these and he cut these specifically for us this morning. These are much more tender than a traditional pea tendril, but when we were talking about putting together this dish, we started to think about peas and carrots. Springtime reminds me of peas and carrots, so this is how we're incorporating them. Colby's got our venison going back into the sauce just to heat it through. So our pea tendrils, we're going to incorporate a little salad. Okay, this we're going to just simply season with a little bit of olive oil. Pinch of salt, and the juice of a half a lemon. This is going to help to cut the richness of the whole plate together. So as we said, we have our venison that we've cooked in medium rare. We have it in our sauce, so it's well coated. Our sauce is reduced by half. If ever it reduces too much, you can always add a couple drops of water. You can add some more hard cider if you want. But this way the medallions are all nicely cooked. Our potatoes, they've come out of the oven. We're ready to plate. So the first thing we're going to do, we have our spatula and we're very gently going to lift this line of potatoes off. See which one you can see the best. So this we're going to incorporate here. Carrot puree, once we've seasoned it with salt and our maple syrup, this is going to be our base. We have our celery root. So this one you can see, it's absorbed all of the butter. There's a little bit of liquid left. Everything's nicely cooked. The thyme has come off all of the stalks. And if you've never had the chance to try celery root, I highly encourage it. This is going to create a mixture. So, like we want, when our diners eat this, we want them to have the carrot and the celery mixed together so they have that combination. And we have a sweet component, we have a sour component from the pea tendrils, we have a bitter component from the caramelized onions and a little bit from the pea tendrils, and then we have the venison. The venison, the last thing we're going to do to make this a hard cider and maple sauce. Venison is going to go on top of here. Now we're going to finish this sauce with a little bit of maple syrup. about a tablespoon and a half. You can see how this sauce is nice and viscous. It's reduced. Has all of that flavor from the venison in the pan, from the fond on the bottom. We're going to take this and we're going to put one large scoop directly on the venison. Then we're going to come around the rest of the plate. Last component, we have our pea tendrils. And again, their lemon juice represents the acid so that it cuts. I don't know how close we can get. So this is a typical dish that you can find at Paul Smith College, in our restaurant, in our classrooms from our students. We try and use as much local product as we possibly can. We force our students to be creative with what's available. We don't let them just order whatever they want. They have to order what's in season and what's available.
Chef Kevin?
Yes.
If somebody would like to eat one of your dishes at Paul Smith's, where's the restaurant? When is it open to the public?
So the restaurant is called the Wally Gansey Training Center. It's located in Cantwell Hall, and it operates when our semesters are in session. So for this semester, it's running this week, and it will be open next week for lunch on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We open at 11:30, and our last reservation is at 12:30. We sell out pretty quickly, so if you are interested in coming, you should call and make a reservation. We will also reopen for our summer season with our summer class, and that will be not May 24th, but the week after, and we will run from that last week in June all the way until August 1st. And again, we're open for lunch Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We have seatings at 11:30, 12, and 12:30. And, you know, I say these are my dishes, but there are our culinary team's dishes, our baking team's dishes that are prepared by the students. And a lot of times I'll tell people, if it was good, then I made it. But if there's a problem or it wasn't good, then the students made it. I don't know if anybody's laughing, but that's my best joke. So I'll show you the venison. You know, Dinah's going to be able to cut into that. Okay, they have a beautiful medium rare piece of meat.
We have another question. Would the same sauce be appropriate with beef as with venison?
Absolutely. It all depends on your taste. You know, the sauce is kind of a technique and a ratio and not an exact recipe. So if you have too much maple syrup and it's too sweet, you have to balance that out with some acid. That can be vinegar or lemon juice, but it absolutely will go with beef. Go with lamb, it'll go with chicken. I think maple syrup could probably go with anything. Any other questions we might be able to answer?
Somebody was asking if the restaurant will have fall hours.
In the fall, yes, we'll be open during the semester. So, I mean, depending on what happens next semester with COVID and everything that's happening, we should be open during the semester for lunch. And that will start in the first week of September all the way until the end of November.
And then we have
and again, that's barring any schedule changes or things like that that might occur.
Apparently, you've really piqued somebody's interest. Somebody would like to know when you serve the particular dishes that you demonstrated this evening?
Well, we always serve food to this style. Maybe not this specific dish. I can honestly say this specific dish with all these components, I've never made this specific before. But we always utilize all of these products and many different facets on the menu in the restaurant. We always use local products as much as we can. And our menu is always based on as much as we can get locally, as much as possible. We work probably with 12 or 13 different purveyors year round. And that's local purveyors, small farms that produce all of these products. So you will always find local products on our menu. And, you know, it might be this representation. It might be chicken from a small farm. It might be lamb from a small farm. It might be a vegetarian option based on vegetables that are available. But you'll always find this style or this representation of dishes. And our menu changes every week. So we're always constantly trying to talk to the farms and saying, you know, what looks good, what's available, what do you recommend that we purchase from you this week? We never create a menu and then go seek out the product. We always speak to the farms first, and then we write a menu based around what they tell us is ready and available.
Thank you. Somebody asks, what is the ratio of maple syrup to cider?
So that amount of sauce was roughly 12 ounces, our final product, and I finished that with a tablespoon of maple syrup. My recommendation for ratio-wise is start with a small amount and taste. If it's not sweet enough, you can always add more, but it's very difficult to take away. So very little bits periodically until you reach the flavor that you want. That's the best way that you can utilize or figure out the ratio of maple syrup.
Wonderful. Somebody has asked whether or not Paul Smith's has its own garden.
Well, we do have gardens. So we have a couple different classes that one is based on farm to table. So we always introduce our students to the area farms. They get to go there. They get to work on the farms. Juniper Hill, Adam Hayner has been a great partner with our program. He always brings students out there, shows them around, talks to them for a couple hours, shows them his different hoop houses and greenhouses, talks about how he started, talks about the challenges of being a small farm. We have gardens on campus, but they don't produce enough to support our restaurant. So out in front of in Cantwell Hall, we have raised beds that we grow herbs that we use for the restaurant. This year, actually this past week, Kate Glenn, who's in charge of our sustainability program, she was able to receive approval for us to have more raised beds out in front. So we'll be able to grow more products. And those products will be used in the restaurant, but they'll also be used in the classroom in the fall when it's harvest time.
We do have time for one or two more questions if anybody would like to get one in for Chef Kevin or his team joining him. Anybody have any final questions?
So maybe you two guys can go over here and say thank you.
Well, the voice that you've all been hearing, I'm Cheryl Bronstein. I am the Director of Interpretation at the Adirondack Experience. And I would like to thank Chef Kevin and Richard and Colby for a wonderful and inspiring presentation to everybody. I'm really sorry I actually already ate dinner because you certainly have my interest piqued. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Meg for what's been a fabulous series. And I do look forward to our museum, the Adirondack Experience, collaborating with Albany Public Library in the future. Thank you again to everybody, and we look forward to seeing you at the museum and at the library as we all open our doors to the public. Thank you so much.